What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? It's 420 in California. This is Reefer Revolution Live.
But I think in terms of marijuana, and legalization, I think that should be a state issue, state by state.
I think it's up to the states, yeah. I'm a states person. I think it should be up to the states, absolutely.
You know, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Well, fellow good people, for whatever reason, a couple of more white guys have entered the race for the Democratic nomination. One of those guys named Joe Biden, who is so liberal he thinks cannabis is a gateway drug. Hey, Uncle Joe, did you not get the memo about being for cannabis legalization in 2020? Meanwhile, local tyrants in legal California Petaluma pot politics in the heart of the Emerald Triangle, cannabis corruption in Los Angeles. Is it really happening? Gambling in Casablanca. It's all part
I'm
of the
all
Green
in.
Rush.
This is the time to go all in on cannabis.
Everybody's all in, especially the folks over at WeTV, the Cannabis Media Network. I'm not sure what you're saying, but I will put you on camera doing it.
We should check our teeth, both of us.
Oh, because of the
Fico
toothpicks?
hit. Yes, Fico hit.
Yeah, I want to look like a Beverly Hillbilly. What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? I'm Dave Conan. This is indeed Reefer Revolution Live, the show where we get super high and try to do the news.
That's perfect.
And when I say we, I of course mean my partner in all things cannabis and life, Coach Chela.
Hi, everybody. Hey, everybody.
And
Hope you all had a good week.
It's been an amazing week. I'm lighting up. I haven't even lit up yet.
Oh, baby.
I can't hear any. I'm
Light
not in the
up.
mood. I haven't heard the music.
My God. Catch up, sweetheart.
This isn't set
Catch
up.
up.
Who's in the chat? Say hello.
I will say hello to Brian Wilkinson. Hi. And Small Tubes. I heard you were in the chat. There you are. Hi. And the Gypsy Lady Lee. Hello. So nice to see everybody. MD Ann Niles. Jilly Love. Awesome. Laura P. Hey, everybody. Welcome.
Alabama on the march, man.
Alabama is leading the charge in the South, it seems.
So much, we weren't sure if stuff was going to happen in Alabama, and it looks like it's going to.
I knew it would happen one day.
Super exciting.
And they are catching up fast.
So what are we smoking, guys? What are we smoking in the chat?
Yeah.
Where are we smoking? Things are changing. Things are changing all around, and
You're doing stuff? Do you want me to chit chat about some stuff while you're fixing that?
Just chit chat. Hey, Jilly Love, how are you? Welcome. Yes, indeed. Well, we can start talking about.
Chit-chat.
We can start talking about things.
I can chit chat. It's all good. What have we done since we saw the folks last? We've been to an art show.
I don't even remember anymore.
Let's look on Instagram. We've been to a great art show. We went to a wonderful art show in Century City called Photoville. One of our friends is a photographer that is posted in Photoville, so that was cool. Val Kim from Hawaii came all the way from Hilo to show her work. And Monday she's having another show, so that's cool. What else has gone on? Oh, I haven't posted much. That's part of the thing.
Well, we've been busy. We've been developing things.
We've been developing our documentary.
Exactly. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. So you guys know that we are really excited about sharing the news that cannabis helps dementia. My mom lived with dementia for 9 years, and it really, really helped more than anything that is currently available on the market to treat the harder symptoms, all the symptoms of dementia: agitation, anxiety, insomnia, anorexia. I like to do it in alphabetical order. I'm going to get them all eventually memorized. But yeah, so cannabis has been by far and away the best medicine for my mom. It even helped in her death So it's our passion to let everybody know that cannabis helps dementia, and we are going to another symposium. But this
symposiums are coming out the bum.
They're everywhere.
Constant
so we're going to a symposium in Santa Rosa. Very excited about it. This symposium in Santa Rosa is called Medical Cannabis 2.0.
That's pretty cool. Sounds great.
They did. Sorry, I caught something in the thing. Tulsi's deleted video.
See, look, didn't take long to get squirreled, did it?
Didn't it? No. Anyway, so we want to put together this documentary. We're going up to Northern California to film this symposium and to collect some interviews, and we're crazy excited about it. And it's taking a lot of our time. So it's hard to remember what else is going on beyond that, because it's super exciting.
It's essentially the direction that the channel is going to be a platform for education. That means, expanding the reach of our, we got to go to where the education is and capture it. So that's what we're going to do. We have the equipment. We're getting more equipment. Thanks to you guys, much of which is setting us up for that. And we are in the process of, we're going to be basically on the road the middle of May shooting this symposium and interviews up in Northern California, Santa Rosa area. So we're very excited about that. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. I got a bunch of new equipment coming. So that's exciting for me. It's very cool. It's specifically, what's really neat about it is that it's specifically a symposium for cannabis and Alzheimer's. So how could we not go?
We're absolutely going.
And at least be there. And luckily we've been, invited to help cover it. So
that's super exciting.
And there are lots of people up there that we've been wanting to talk to. So, what's up, everybody? And we're constantly evolving here at Reefer Revolution Live. Any ideas for a great new name? So that we can advertise it and actually make money on, or at least not necessarily make money, but not get it suppressed. So that we can promote it, so we can use money to promote the education, to get it to more people, and not get it shut down on Facebook, and not get it shut down or shadow banned on YouTube, or anything like that. So yeah, we're trying to come up with a new name that doesn't have cannabis in it, because you can't talk about the plant, you can't talk about the actual thing yet, because you know what? It's still on the Schedule 1, and even after it comes off the Schedule 1. It's not going to change real quick. I mean, it could come off the Schedule 1 tomorrow, and it's still going to take a decade for doctors and other idiots to catch up.
Well, because of the propaganda that the government has sold so successfully. So, but that's that. Do you want to get into a little news?
Smoke the Reefer Revolution live strain. Good luck on your summer grow. Thank you. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
We're
yes.
going to be trying something sometime. I don't know.
We're going to grow something. It might be the channel.
I found a seed, and we might grow the channel.
Yeah, maybe we'll grow the channel.
Yes, well, the channel, we are multi-streaming right now over YouTube, Facebook, DLive, Periscope, Twitch, and WeTV, the Cannabis Media Network. So wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, share the show, because we are going to start talking about the news. It's 4:30. Mm-hmm. Ding dong, 4:30 time. Keeping it tight. When I find news, I like to tweet. And I do most of my tweeting over on Twitter. I don't know about you guys. Something with 420 in it. Yeah. We've already been through that conversation. But no, it can't be any code. It can't be anything that's on the DEA list, I think, is pretty much. And that's a very broad list. Hey, Doug 209. Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome if you haven't been on the show before. Welcome.
Yeah.
This is Reefer Revolution Live. Thanks for joining in. If you are new, share the channel. We do get really high and talk about the cannabis news that's happened all week. And that's what we're going to start to do. And as I find them, I tweet them out over on my Twitter account, which is at DC420LA, my personal Twitter. And I keep the news aflowing all week over there. And then also we are over on the Instagram at that place, but also at Reefer Rev Show. Chela's doing, we'll be doing more Instagramming as we move into our being on the road and making our documentary and collecting all this education stuff. We'll be gramming, of course, and working the socials, as they say.
Maybe I'll even learn how to do them better.
Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Working the socials?
I think so. That's what we say.
That's what we say. I guess.
Lots of old people that have good followings and jobs, I think, from whatever. I don't know how that all works, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to.
We bought a fucking camera. We're going to fucking learn.
We're going to fucking figure this shit out. We have to.
What's the name of our what's the new name of our documentary?
No End in Sight is the working title.
What do you think of that? No End in Sight. Now, this is not the narrative. This is not the Alzheimer's pot
comedy. No, no.
That is still Last Resort. That's the fictional narratives, loosely based on our life. Yes. Mm-hmm. But we are also moving into the documentary realm because we need to get the information out sooner rather than later. And quite frankly, we need a little bit of cred. We need a little cred. So we've got contacts to people and we've got access to events and information. And so we are going to use that and help spread it and try to put it into a documentary format, probably short form. We're
going for short form. Well. We're going for short form. We're going for 30 minutes. That would be great. I think indeed. 30 minutes of content plus that would be awesome. We'll see what happens, though. We might collect too much good information that really needs to be put into a story, but we'll see.
Cultivation culture, that's interesting. We're not really a cultivation-focused show, but I like that. I like alliteration, Jilly Love. You know I do.
Totally.
I'm a big fan of alliteration. Timbuktu's in the house.
Awesome.
Here's the history, marijuanabreak.com / the use of cannabis in Chinese medicine.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, we should check that out. Thanks, Timbuktu. We will definitely check out that link.
The Herb Superb is very sweet. That's a sweet name.
Oh, the Herb Superb.
It'd be a good cooking show. It'd be a really good cooking show.
Well, that'll be the cooking show on the channel. We need something, we don't want Cannabis News Network. It's got cannabis in it. Plus,
it's taken. Educational Community Access Network is what we were kicking around.
What was it?
Educational Community Access Network. Remember?
Right.
Educan.
Educan. Yeah, Educan or ECAN, Educational Community Access. Because we're going to be the public access of cannabis education and politics, and so we going with the public access model, which we have a little bit of history in, but something along those lines. The other one we were thinking of this week was maybe it was leaf spelled.
You have junk all in your teeth. You have to fix it. I must tell you. Hold everything. All up in your grill.
I got the Beverly Hillbillies.
It's on the bottom of your grill.
I see it now.
Okay.
I see it now. I thought it was just an artifact.
You
on the
guys,
screen.
you have to tell us this shit.
Are you not paying attention to the show?
What's wrong with you? This is not a podcast. You have to tell us that there's shit in our teeth.
This is why you guys talk about politics. You don't talk about cannabis.
Dave's mad.
Still there?
I can't see. It's 30 seconds delayed. You're going to be sitting there a while.
I won't smile so big until I know for sure.
Sure you won't.
But follow us on all the socials.
Because we do silly shit like this all the time.
At DC420, at DC420LA, and also at Reefer Rev Show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Oh, no, it's still all over your teeth. You gotta go
damn it! I better play a video or we'll start showing.
Oh, why don't you do the Pop Brothers or something?
I don't have any.
Never mind. I saw you listening to that earlier. That's why I thought you had it.
A force of habit. I was looking at videos, but
habit.
I just don't. I don't have anything. Literally, don't have anything built. No playlist.
Good. You shouldn't. That's perfect. That's exactly how it should be.
We can watch the marijuana in the mainstream media.
Why don't you put on the
What? So I can go fix my teeth.
Yeah. Then the
I'll
Cannabis-Chronicle.
let you talk. I'll go fix my teeth.
Okay. Is my mic on? Is everything okay?
I'll go check out my teeth.
Laura P says, I'm from Alabama. Look normal to me.
Oh my God, it's got worse.
Very good. Thank you, Laura P. Thank you very much. So the reason we have brown shit on our teeth, you should know, is
we are not fecal-philiacs.
This is a little bit of full extraction cannabis oil on a toothpick that you just, stick under your tongue. And usually you just keep it there long enough for it to sort of dissolve and melt, and don't go on camera right after you do it. Yeah, start talking, because then you'll have shit all up in your grill. My camera's far enough away that maybe you won't be able to tell too bad. So that's that. FICO is lovely, just a tiny little dabble do ya. That'll take you for hours and hours. It's also really an excellent anti-inflammatory. I put it on my little pre-cancers, my skin cancers, to make them go away. I know a young woman in LA who used it to, you got it?
I think so.
Who used full extraction cannabis oil to get rid of ovarian cancer. She didn't do any traditional remedies. She didn't do any, surgery or radiation or chemo, and good. And she's cancer free 3 years. So she's doing pretty great. She's opening a cannabis brand, actually.
We use it as a preventative.
Yes, we use it as preventive. I feel like my mom did not use enough cannabis to prevent dementia, so I feel like I have to make up for that shit.
I feel like FICO is like extended release.
Right. It is.
I would call it extended release, because it's a very high dose, and it depending on how much you start with, it releases over a longer period of time.
Yeah, I think it just keeps,
especially under the tongue, as opposed to eating it, which is fascinating. But yeah, don't do it right before you go on camera.
Yeah.
That was very funny. Laura P. Who said that?
That was Laura P.
From Alabama.
Very, very funny.
Hilarious.
Very funny. Cool. So did you want to get to the Cannabis Chronicle?
Oh, that's what we're working on, right? I think we've gotten through the socials before we had the FICO emergency.
It was a FICO emergency.
It was hilarious.
It was.
We are, guys. Good. Before we do get into the Cannabis Chronicle, we were going to set up the second hour here, the second half of the show, 5 o'clock or ish, 5 o'clock ish. We are going to be highlighting a couple of videos from the state of cannabis, as well as in the Afterbird launching a panel. So stay tuned for that as we get into the Cannabis Chronicle, which is, of course, the newsletter that goes out Sunday mornings. And you can go over there once a week, folks. I just send it out once a week, and it is jam-packed full of cannabis news. And you can find that at dc420la.com, a Cannabis Chronicle, dc420la.com. Subscribe to that if you want. Otherwise, you can just go there and check out the week's news, leisurely pop back in throughout the week and check out what we found that we talked about on the show. We're going to talk about on the show. We send it out on Sunday morning, so you can check it out and pick your favorite stories that you want to talk about, and you can let us know, and we can pop those up and talk about those specifically. Otherwise, it's just us picking the ones we want to talk about, which is cool. We did that because we have found some pretty good stories this week. Of course, let's start in the world news. Out there in the world, we got a couple of stories. How did Israel become the global leader in cannabis research? Israel researchers have explored the plant's seemingly limitless beneficial uses for decades, while the U.S. remains stubbornly in a prohibition dark age. This is coming out of the Green Entrepreneur. I believe that's Entrepreneur Magazine, the cannabis side. Everybody's got a cannabis side now. The Boston Globe has cannabis reporters, right? God forbid it should be part of the same fucking paper. Exactly. They're just fine. It's like the town, was it Petaluma, that has the new cannabis branch or a new cannabis website, just taking care of their cannabis business stuff. Yes, the Green Entrepreneur is, I believe, Entrepreneur's Magazine coverage of the Green Rush. And they're just baffled how Israel has beaten us in research, with our funding, by the way. And a lot of it, basically them doing it for us and themselves, and they are ahead of the game. There is no question, and they are becoming an exporter now. They have approved medical marijuana and the exportation thereof, and that is happening despite Netanyahu's initial reluctance, if you will. He has seen the green, and No pun or trope intended. Yes, indeed. Just another one added to the list of the politicians that are seeing green, especially here in the United States. But research, we're talking science here. This is the real science. If anybody points to there's not enough science, even the politicians in Tennessee, the politician who was, I forget her name, slips me, the young lady down there in Tennessee who was pushing for medical cannabis. The senator, yes, delayed for a year now, but will be coming back. And you can find that story in the Cannabis Chronicle this week. But she was swayed by all the work Israel has done over cannabis. So very cool that this is finally coming to light. There is indeed plenty of research on cannabis. Meanwhile, Mexico back in the news. Kyle Yeager, of course, reporting earlier this month about the poll that was taken over there in Mexico with the population supporting cannabis. I believe, don't have the number right in front. Oh, there it is, 66% in October, or it was Gallup's. That was Gallup's poll, but still, that's pretty high. I think that's about what it was for Mexico citizens as well. But it looks like not only have they moved forward on medical, but they are moving forward on recreational, and they is expected to be there rolling out the green carpet before October. Recreational cannabis coming to Mexico.
It's going to be amazing.
We will have to throw cannabis over the wall that way to get to Mexico because that's the direction the cannabis goes, guys. It's the avocados that go the other way.
Avocados come north.
Wait till the borders close and you can't get your avocados in California. You want people in yellow vests in the streets in California? Stop their avocado
supply. The avocados, right? Mm-hmm. Are we on camera right now?
We are, yes.
Okay.
Well, good. Now we're not.
I'm not sure if my mic's on or not, and I have to lift up my dress to see.
Oh, okay. It is on. I hear you.
Oh, you do? Okay, great.
I see you registering.
Oh, great. Thanks, Dave.
And you have to lift. That would get us more viewers.
That's a different show.
I'm betting that might get us a couple more viewers.
That's a whole other show. I don't do that for viewers.
Cannabis Sativa says, if 66% of Americans support legal cannabis, why do most states top out at 56 to 57? Well, I think it depends on the poll, how the questions asked,
averages,
age groups. I think they include independents, Democrats, Republicans, or however they break it up. So the number varies. And basically, you want to look at the average of polling over time, and individual states, are going to change over time, more so than national polls, I think. But yeah, Timbuktu, Netanyahu needs to smoke it too. Cannabis, indeed, maybe it would cure his psychopathy. That would.
I know you guys, listen, I'm not a fan of Israel at all, but God damn it, they do all the science. They do all the science. They have all the shit. Right now, I'm waiting for a study from Tikkun Olam of 100 Alzheimer's, people living with Alzheimer's, over a year, and them using cannabis. So I'm really excited about that. It should be any time now. I'm also excited about the King's College out of London, but damn it with Israel with all this stuff.
All the other stuff.
Most of the stuff.
Pass the salt, and let's move on to the next story.
Lettuce.
Hold the lettuce. Hold the lettuce on my CBD burger. We talked about this on the week of 420. Indeed, Carl's Jr. may have sold over 2,000 illegal CBD burgers in Denver on 420.
There's some people saying, oh, no, it's not illegal. They did it with hemp and hemp oil. But in the story that I read, in that story, it says that there's 5 milligrams of CBD in the sauce. I mean, I suppose that would be very interesting.
From hemp.
That it could be from hemp oil.
Well, no matter what the source is, it doesn't matter if it's from hemp or if it's from cannabis. You can't put it in food.
But hemp has been part of the food supply for a long time.
No, I think they specifically say, it says soul hamburgers with CBD infused sauce.
I know. I saw that.
So it's definitely an oil or something that was infused into that. And they ran out quickly, folks. That sold out immediately.
Immediately.
So good marketing there on Carl's Jr. Also has a vegan burger. Well, I'm a vegan. It is. It's got cheese on it. I suppose you can do it without cheese. But it's the Impossible, or is it? Which one is there? No, it's the. It is the Impossible. The Impossible Famous Star and Burger King coming on board with that one too. Vegans, you fellow vegans in the house, but get yours with CBD sometime once the FDA figures that out. Maybe they just went with these as few as possible. Get it out the door so they don't come in and shut us down.
That's so they can't take it.
So they can't take it.
No, they sold like 2,500 burgers, and they sold out before 4 o'clock.
Oh, way before, guys. Some guy said he was there at almost like 11 or 12.
No. By noon, that story says.
Oh.
I wasn't there. The story says 1,000 burgers by noon, and then sold out before 4.
Well.
I'm good at the reading comprehension.
That's good. At least somebody is. Get your CBD burger on.
You read all the words.
Or they got it on over at Carl's Jr.
Laura P. says, I believe Israel's been offering cannabis in elder care homes for 20 years.
It's true.
Damn Skippy.
True story.
Did you watch The Scientist? Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Yeah, really good doc about Meshulam.
Well, speaking of Mitchellum, Mitch McConnell.
Mitch.
He is coming on board the cannabis train.
Hemp.
I feel it coming. Toot toot.
Hemp.
I feel him coming. Toot toot.
He's very hemp.
Toot toot.
Toot toot.
Toot toot. The cannabis train. Mitch McConnell. Hemp. He's a big fan of hemp. The man. He thinks, guess what? Same thing the big tobacco thinks. Is that a surprise? I don't think so. He is big tobacco. But in big tobacco apparently has been whispering in his ear. The hemp bill is the farm bill.
We always call it the hemp bill. So do other people.
Includes the Hemp Act, which of course removes the wonderful cousin of the low THC arbitrary numbered cousin of the plant. It's like so plantist, isn't it? It's like you.
It's totally plantist.
You with the less than 3% Neanderthal DNA. You're not human. You're another species.
You go.
So that's what they're doing with hemp. They just made up this number, and apparently tobacco has figured out that it's a good way to get people off of tobacco. Because people are getting off of tobacco anyway. So they need to replace it. Well, guess what? It's actually a pretty good way to replace tobacco. So it's nice to see. Stand by. Okay, it's back green. Network issues.
Oh.
Me. The OBS was showing red for a second, but I think we're back. Adulterating CBD with a burger is so distasteful. Chili Love says, I love it. That's great. True story. Meanwhile, back to Mitch McConnell. Says hemp could replace tobacco and argues that's why voters should reelect him. Yes, he used hemp in his commercial, and he came out and said a few words about how great Kentucky hemp is and how it's going to help get kids off of tobacco and vaping.
No, raising the age of tobacco consumption nationwide to 21.
That's what it was. It wasn't hemp is going to get him off of. Okay. We think that. That's what we think. We think hemp is going to get kids off of, and everybody else. That's what in Europe it's called cannabis light. In Europe,
my dad totally
THC.
poo-poos it, but I totally want him to use it because he mixes his cannabis and his hash with tobacco,
right?
Which is just awful. And if he mixed it with hemp, it would be so much better. I think I have to go visit him to convince him so.
Blaster Master says CBD should be in all foods. Mellow society out a bit, indeed. We think it's going to be a recommended daily allowance of CBD for everyone in the future.
Yeah,
that's the way we're going. But that's just our dream world. Mitch McConnell's dream world is where he makes a lot of money on the hemp plant, replacing the tobacco. So we're going to plant the hemp and grow it up really fast. So there you go. Thanks, Mitch. Marijuana Moment. Great source of news, by the way. Also letting us know, Kyle Yeager, that boy, Alabama, Laura P., Gypsy Lady Lee, is awake in the house tonight? I don't know, but Alabama is on the move, guys. Lots of stuff coming out of Alabama. We talked about it last week. We got some decriminalization happening, and Alabama lawmakers approve medical marijuana bill. What? An Alabama State Senate committee approved a bill to legalize medical marijuana on Wednesday, a second major victory for cannabis reform supporters in the state within the span of a week. The legislation would allow patients 19 and older who are suffering from a tyrannical 33 conditions. Tyrannical is my addition. 33 on this list.
And no home grow in the bill.
No home grow?
Laura P.
No
Laura P.
home
contributing.
grow.
No home grow in the bill yet.
Oh, well, we got to work on that.
We got to work on that.
Thanks, Laura P.
Laura P. Write your people. Laura P. Awake A. Gypsy Lady Lee.
This, of course, on the heels of a vote 1 week. 1 week. Super exciting. Reconnection successful. We are dropping in and out on the network.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Damn you, Spectrum. We're back.
Yes, Brian Wilkinson, I totally am with you. Put CBD in the water supply instead of fluoride. I'd even be willing to just CBD so people don't get, crazy. Because people get crazy when you talk about this stuff. I mean, I come from a very sheltered, cannabis-friendly environment. They weren't farmers or anything, but we knew farmers, and it was always around me. But a lot of people did not have that experience at all, like you.
No, yeah, I had no exposure to it whatsoever. Like zero exposure until
you were in high school.
18.
16.
No.
Your brother got you high, I thought.
No,
it
was my brother-in-law, and I was 18 and I was in college.
Oh, sorry.
That was my first time.
Sorry, I'm
But
conflating
no, I didn't do
with
any.
me.
I did nothing in high school. And then once when I turned 18, and then not again and even when I was doing cocaine, I was not into weed.
Well, people who like cocaine don't generally like weed. It's different, isn't it? Aren't they different?
They mix it up. They are, but sometimes you need the weed to slow you down. I chose vodka.
Right, maybe cannabis would have been better.
Probably.
Interesting.
But so there was that, and then there was I did a little some mushrooms, I did a little acid, not a lot of either one of those, and then I think I'm trying to think of that whole summer of the whole summer at the Renaissance Fair is a bit of a blur.
I'm sure.
There was definitely a lot of mushrooms involved.
Oh.
Don't think we did any LSD, and I'm not sure about a whole lot of weed, but there was a lot of drinking, a lot of beer. I was underage, and it was fun to drink beer. So, that's a thing.
Like you do.
But yeah, no, my copious cannabis consumption did not occur until perhaps 25 years ago, somewhere around there. But for my health, all the better. I mean, eventually gave up the alcohol altogether, and things are just cruising. And we are definitely medicating for wellness, prevention, which seems to be a big theme in a lot of the practitioners within the cannabis world. There are some, and that's what we're going to be focusing on our public access style coverage of education and politics within the space.
Wellness.
And wellness in the space, yes. As well as our show, Sunday show.
The Sunday show, where we do this. Yeah.
At 4:20 Pacific. So subscribe, get notifications.
Sorry. Together another story. We got to move right along.
We're moving right along. Where are we in the stories? We just did Alabama.
Right.
So this was a good one in the New York Times. Noticing the green rush is actually happening. Cannabis, marijuana, weed, pot, just call it a job machine. Yes, the New York Times this week has figured out that they, of course, are talking to MedMen right off the bat here in this article. But 200, we've got over, there's another article in the Cannabis in the Chronicle this week under that same topic about local prediction for jobs. I believe it's in, here it is. Here's the story. Oh, New York. Legal weed in New York could create 21,000 jobs. So it is definitely a job creator. Over 220,000 jobs created last year.
Well-paying jobs.
In the federally illegal cannabis space that paid over $4.7 billion in federal taxes and can't write anything off. At least most things.
Right.
And if you unleashed the tax rights and benefits to other companies, to cannabis companies, they would blow Starbucks and other consumption companies away. So
corporatization of cannabis is a heartbreaking thing, and I guess technically a large job creator, but craft cannabis is still a thing. It's unfortunate that the rollout is being so poorly done in most places.
It's a real double-edged sword going on here, and we're going to see it we see it at the panels, the business panels, the legal panels that we see, that we've seen a couple in the last few weeks, that different places, different sources, different groups, talking about the challenges of this industry. And it is a completely new animal that we're trying to navigate here. We can create small jobs. It's just like the regular economy. Small companies actually create most of the jobs.
Yeah, let's talk about the Petaluma story.
Let's talk about the Petaluma story. That brings us over to, here it is. Pot in Petaluma is the story we are talking about. This is from the Argus Courier, which is a local Petaluma paper, is it not?
Yeah.
And
I thought it was from Petaluma 360, but okay.
I'm sorry?
I thought it was from a different source, but that's all right. I'm not reading it. You are. Argus Courier. There it is.
Argus Courier
at
the top here.
It sure does.
It
Argus
may be
Courier.
referencing a
something else. But that's okay.
Source.
It is. It's a local paper.
Argus Courier staff. What's
Argus
the gist?
Courier.
It really highlights the overall struggle of what's going on in California between these long-time this state has had a 20-year industry. a 20-year...
Longer than that, but a 20-year...
pseudo-legal.
It was legal. It was a legal medical industry where lots of caregivers... Yeah, completely unregulated. Where lots of caregivers took care of lots of people, and a lot of people thought everything was just fine.
Yeah.
A lot of those people are medical cannabis users.
Yep.
Who need a lot of cannabis for their ailments. And craft growers, they were pretty much okay with it too.
So was the rest of the country.
They started regulating it a couple years before Prop 64 happened in 2016. So they started having some regulation in the medical market, and now my mic is fuzzy. Okay. My mic fuzzy, sorry. Now, in Prop 64 passed, and it's supposed to make recreational cannabis legal. Maybe it's just my voice. Make recreational cannabis legal, but municipalities have jurisdiction over what goes on. So in most of the state, cannabis cannot be used or cultivated, sold, distributed, except that the delivery is allowed throughout the whole state. There are 20 cities suing to make that not the case, but for now, deliveries are allowed everywhere. This story in Petaluma talks about this third-generation cannabis farmer who is trying to be legal in his own town. Sure, he could stay illegal, but he has a kid and he wants to maintain his straight life. So the guy is also a veteran and, like I said, a third-generation cannabis farmer. And he is just one of many people that this is happening to. So policy and laws need to catch up with the reality of how people have been making their living for a long, long time, and how cannabis came to be a thing in California. It's still taboo, even in the Emerald Triangle, which is really kind of shocking to me.
Ironic. That's what it is.
It is. It's ironic. It made that part of America what it is. While there might not have been regulation and taxes, people in the community reinvested in the community, even without being forced to through taxes.
Right.
So cannabis has a long history, and we would do well to listen to those who have been involved in it for so long. We're going to see later in the Afterburn on the panel, one of the panelists is the man who made cannabis social equity possible in Los Angeles, Measure M. So anyway, so that story out of Petaluma really is indicative of what's happening to cannabis across all states that are coming online. Kind of a canary in a coal mine.
Yeah, Bonnie Lee, you're right. Her mic does sound a little messed
Is it my
up.
necklace? Should I take off my necklace?
If your mic is anywhere near that necklace.
Oh, he's all mad now, you guys.
Yeah.
He's all mad. He's all mad. Okay, I'll take off my necklace.
Hey, Mr. Sparks a lot. Phil Britton in the house. What's up, guys? Also, it's and where's your box? Where's your transmitter?
In my dress?
Okay. Probably put it outside for better.
It's not really possible.
Okay,
right
never
now.
mind. Never mind. Then we will work on that later. We're getting more practice with our wireless system here. Our wireless.
All right, is that any
mic
better?
system.
I went on this long ass rant with a terrible microphone. I'm sorry.
It wasn't
Sorry,
super
everybody.
bad. I was monitoring it, but I definitely say something else.
Something else.
Yeah, no, there's definitely something.
Oh, there's something going on?
Definitely something on. Well, we're going to move into some videos right now.
All right.
Anyway, it's 5:00. We can get
No, we need to talk about the LA Times story.
Oh, yes, of course we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
That's going to get us into it. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to
Bring it up and talk about it some.
Let's.
I'll talk less.
Stand by, everybody.
All right. We're back.
I think that should be better.
Is that better? Is that better? What do you think? What do you think? Oh, that's cute. I like
almost
the
dead
tiny little thing
batteries.
there. This is better. All right, kosher kush. Let's spark up
Now
again.
the antenna's out. So
All right,
everything's
antenna.
cool.
Everybody's good. All is well. All is well. All
Thank
is
you for
well.
the heads up, folks.
Yeah.
For the fuzziness.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Bonnie
Thank
Lee.
you. We
It
appreciate
is
you guys.
really irritating when it sounds terrible. So.
Yeah, you may not have told us about the thing in our teeth, but thank you for telling us about the sound.
Listen, even Michael Moore says sound is the most
Sound
important
is more
part.
important, right? Sound is more important than picture.
More important. And just to be clear, everybody hates Biden in the chat, right? Just has anybody mentioned Biden?
No,
That's hilarious.
thank you. Much better. Good, good, good.
'Cause
everybody knows.
Some idiot named Biden came out, another white guy came out for the Democratic Party, and some other dude. Who was the other dude?
Whatever. It doesn't matter.
But the
My
old
Los
one
Angeles-
did not get the memo about cannabis. So the Chronicle is full of all the this history of Biden and how bad he is for cannabis.
Apparently,
And,
you all know.
But apparently he's on top of the polls.
Give him a week.
Yeah. So give him a week, exactly. So let's move on to our big story of the week. And big only in the sense that it's local.
It's a big local story, and again, it's indicative of what's happening all over the cannabis space.
And it is tied to something we did this week or last week.
Well, we went to the state of cannabis, and Eva Castro was one of the panelists on the social justice panel, and I loved what she had to say. But my ears perked up because I know that her city, where she is a council member, Linwood, there's quite a bit of controversy because there are 19 cannabis businesses moving into a city that is 1 square mile. And a lot of the local people, a lot of the residents, think that it's bad for their community. And
those businesses aren't just dispensaries.
I don't know what they are, to be quite frank. I don't know exactly what it is.
Well, part of the issue is there are very few communities, ironically, and it's interesting that when we met Representative Tulsi Gabbard at the state of cannabis, and we talked to her about her bill, she seemed very surprised when I told her that almost 80% of the state of California has banned cannabis, at least commercial activity, and have and your personal rights, your personal freedom and liberty, even that the state gives you under the law, Prop 64, is hindered and curtailed in many communities.
Like in that Petaluma story.
The heart of the Emerald Triangle, and the city's just coming on board.
And they're only allowing, very limited things, and most landlords won't rent to cannabis businesses.
Well, one of the most ridiculous things in that Petaluma story
in the zones.
is the limit on 36 customers a day.
That's for
entering
for
the facility.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
So it's these local tyrannical jurisdictions, these lists, these restrictions. They in Petaluma, you can't sell it after 7. Guess when the number one time people are that buy cannabis, especially delivery? It's after 7. So you
can't sell after 8.
These local tyrants are just throwing every possible obstruction where it's where they don't want it. Where the local councils don't want it. So there are these very few communities that have completely embraced cannabis.
And they're usually communities that have been economically devastated by society.
War on drugs. Just poverty in general, forgotten.
And concentrating polluting industries in those areas.
Shitty water. Also. We have there's worse water in some of these towns.
As bad
as bad and worse in some measures than in Flint.
We have Flint viewers.
All of these towns really that are pro cannabis. What some folks would call on the other side of the tracks, or at least near the tracks, because all of these towns are like, where the railroad's going through, you might as well put industry there, people nobody cares about, and cannabis. That's a great place for it. So you have these terrible industrial polluting industries coming into these towns, and
which are shitty for the towns. But they bring economic reinvestment.
Well, here's the thing. Cannabis is not one of those industries.
Cannabis is not one of those industries.
Cannabis actually, the regulated legal industry that's being brought up is a completely clean, or it's one of the most overregulated and clean industries there is. I mean, most of these places have so much filtration that there's no way anybody is smelling any cannabis. And most of the laws are like that. You can't smell it.
It's 70 years of prohibition and government lying to us that has brought well-meaning people into wrong thinking. It's really frustrating when people you totally agree with on so many fronts just absolutely refuse to see the benefits of this healing plant and how it can bring communities together and how it can rise up neighborhoods and communities and people. And so talk amongst yourselves about in your communities and your friends about your use as much as you can without getting yourself into trouble. But because the conversation needs to be had every day. So this community, this tiny little city, Linwood, has 19 cannabis businesses coming. And this council member was at the State of Cannabis. And she had a very compelling story. She has family and other partners in the city, have other family. And she herself has benefited from cannabis medicine. But she's also benefited from cannabis businesses. And she's currently still sitting on the council. And it just looks super shady. Really shady, you guys. Looks really, 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 really shady. And California Democrats are really fucking shady.
Well, so we're talking about this story that's in the LA Times this week by Adam Al-Maharic. Would this California town have become so pro-cannabis if not for a councilwoman's pot industry ties? So this is a story about the city of Linwood, which is just a 4 square mile town.
I thought it was 1 square mile.
I think that's where the licenses are in 1 square mile.
Anyway, it's a tiny little place.
It's a tiny little community, a tiny little incorporated town near Los Angeles. There's a lot of these small incorporated towns around here, and this is one of them. And they have city councils, and they have representatives also. And this particular town is represented by a state rep that basically put the kibosh on Medicare for all in the state of California. Is that correct? Am I Anthony Rendon?
Yeah, Rendon is the one single-handedly blocked Medicare for all for California to be talked about on the assembly floor.
Right.
Himself.
So there is a progressive.
He's the Sessions. He's the Pete Sessions.
Right.
Of Medicare for all in California.
In California, right? To make the cannabis connection. I'm not sure even what his theories are or beliefs are on cannabis, but it is a district and a town that is riled in controversy and progressive issues. Cannabis being one of them, and the cannabis industry, this green rush that's coming to Linwood because they are accepting cannabis. And similar to other cities around the state that are embracing it wholeheartedly, with that comes the appearance or the question of possible corruption, alleged corruption. Now, we've seen it in some of the other towns that we've reported on here on the show.
Well, the LA
around
Times,
California.
The LA Times piece says that she didn't disclose the fact that she was
I don't want. Yeah, be
consulting.
clear. Let's not be clear. I'm not alleging any corruption or any wrongdoing.
Yeah, no,
At all.
no.
I am.
There was corruption.
There was corruption. The Lento, there was corruption.
You know.
But there's been no. I don't think there's not even really any
Times
corruption
story,
alleged in the story.
The LA Times story says that, she was consulting for weed maps, and now there are 2 businesses in Linwood that advertise on weed maps, and that she didn't disclose how much money she made. And when she did disclose, she said that it was under $10,000, and Weed Map says it was $93,000.
Right. So
that's sort of a discrepancy. And that's unfortunate, because I really like her story, and I want cannabis to rise all communities.
Indeed, and it does. That's the other point, is that unfortunately you see this appearance of shenanigans.
Total appearance of shenanigans.
And because you have blatant and proven shenanigans in other towns and other stuff going on. So people are already looking for it. So, and we're already in this political climate where, not telling the whole truth and having transparency is not a benefit for some, for most, in thinking politically. So the issue is a hot one. Is the green rush part of a gentrification of a corporate cannabis takeover in some of these towns? Yes. I don't think there's a MedMen vying for a spot in Linwood.
No.
I think these are social equity, I know these are social equity and social equity. I don't want to say social justice, but these are part of the social equity program here in California and in Los Angeles. That these licenses in these towns that have been affected by the drug war, that they're coming under, we're still under, haven't even started phase 3 of that process. And on the panel you're going to see in the Afterburn today, the second panel from the state of cannabis that we're going to be premiering at the end of the show, or in the Afterburn, talks about the social equity that's been going on in California and in Los Angeles and in Linwood. And we're going to play a couple of clips from this embroiled council member. She was, as Chela was saying, she was at the state of cannabis and was on one of the panels. And
I liked how she was talking.
Lo and behold,
she's talking good stuff. All the things that we all talk.
Council member Castro ends up in the heat of controversy in the LA Times this week. So we thought it would be appropriate
And it's not just in the LA Times. We know some folks who live in Linwood and who are active in Linwood, and this is a thing. This is a thing. The community of Linwood is beside themselves over 19 cannabis businesses. And
we're not talking about 19 dispensaries.
I don't know what we're talking about.
I
have no idea.
We don't know for sure. I don't think it's 19 dispensaries. I think because there's cultivation, and there's extraction, manufacturing.
Yeah, I know there's one manufacturing place for sure.
Right. So, this is look at all this. Half the stories in the Cannabis Chronicle this week are about all the jobs that are being created by this industry. Do we have to balance it between social equity and corporate cannabis takeover? Yes. Is local jurisdiction trying to stop cannabis in legal California at every level?
Yes.
Most of them, yes. 80% of them, yes. Well, 60 to 80%, depending on who you talk to.
Right. And then they wonder why their tax dollars haven't been coming in.
Why the sales haven't been up to par. Why the black market is flourishing.
The traditional market is flourishing because there's been no pathway for patients to get the medicine they need at the price point that they can afford, that they've been paying for years and years. And that's why the traditional market is flourishing, because cannabis is medicine. And politicians are trying to make money off the backs of sick people. And it's disgusting.
Not just politicians. Everybody's getting on the green train, the green
rush. A lot
of
people just think that cannabis is a recreational thing. I think a lot of the people that are in the recreational game since adult use don't see cannabis as medicine. Most of them. The ones that are generational farmers, the ones that have been in it for a long time, see how cannabis is medicine. But the ones that are just coming to it now are in it for the money, period. And to make money off the backs of sick people. And they can get fucked. Sorry.
Now, is it too expensive to get in? Do you have to have too much money to get a license, and then it costs too much money to test, and then they change the rules on you and the label, and you change your labeling, and then you gotta find a lease that nobody wants to lease you to, so you gotta buy a property or pay the lease for a year before you get the license. So are people not going to be able to afford that? And your friends who you've been buying weed from for 20 years, are they going to pony up that money and go through all of that and then be shut down? You know, because they literally didn't cross all the T's and dot the I's correctly. Well, we're going to hear about some of the challenges that cities and companies, small companies that are part of the social equity programs in these cities around the state are going through in these two little clips. So we're going to play a couple of clips from this panel with Councilmember Castro. The two clips we're going to play right now are what she had to say on this Keeping It Real panel is what it was called. Officially, it was the Social Justice panel.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember the exact title.
I have it here. It is. This is the Social Justice, Culture, and Economic Opportunities panel. Just the introduction. And then I want to ask you guys what you guys think. You saw the story that Dave brought up, and then I want you to hear what Councilmember Castro is saying, and then tell us what you think should happen. I'd love to know what you think.
So this is, so we're going to play Councilmember Castro's comments from this panel, and we'll see what you guys think.
Yeah,
if
like I just said.
Like what Chela just said.
Exactly like I just said. Press play, please.
Thank you. Was that a setup for the video?
Press play.
Got it.
Ready? Yes.
Wait. Okay.
Eva Castro, por favor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Eva Castro. I've been on the Linwood City Council for 11 years now. Thankfully, I'll be done December 2020. Very much looking forward to that. That doesn't pay the bills, so I do have a consultant company that I formed back in 2013. My consultant company, ASM Premier Consultants, started as a government affairs consulting firm. 2015, I have 6 years of legislative experience. I worked 3 years for then Assembly Member Isidore Hall and 3 years with our current Speaker of the Assembly, Mr. Anthony Rundon. I left his office in March of 2017 so I could focus completely on my consulting firm. But while I was working in his office in 2015, Assemblymember Reggie Jones-Sawyer was working on combining the MRSA and AMA rules here in the state of California, and at the same time, Prop 64 was being developed. So being a city council member, I quickly realized that I had two opportunities. One, the opportunity of economic development with my background in real estate. I immediately saw an opportunity to rejuvenate our manufacturing area that was underutilized, and we weren't really benefiting from the property taxes that we could be benefiting, because a lot of those properties hadn't been touched since like the early 50s or 60s. So we weren't getting the full property tax benefit because they were protected under Prop 13. I knew if the cannabis industry came into our city, they would immediately start buying up these warehouses, and now the city would benefit from the new property tax value at the new purchase sale. So that was my original intent. But my subconscious was reminding me of when I got arrested at, I think I was 21, 22. I was a passenger in a vehicle with some friends that had a lot of cannabis in the car. I had already started consuming. And the reason I started consuming was because I worked at the phone company. It was a National Multilingual Center for GTE back then, now Verizon. I just aged myself. And I developed carpal tunnel and tendonitis. I have a little cyst here on my arm that I never let them remove because they would always tell me, well, it's a 50-50 chance. And the muscle relaxers that they gave me basically made me feel like a zombie and I couldn't function. So a friend handed me a joint, I took my first drag, and I was the happiest camper ever. And I've been consuming discreetly for a lot of years, but when I said, okay, I'm going to bring this before my community, I can't be a hypocrite. I have to be honest. I have to tell them, hey, when you say, oh, those people that do marijuana, I would always ask them, so what do you think a person that does marijuana look like? And they would describe, your typical, what we unfairly call a pothead. And then when they would finish, I'd be like, nice to meet you, I'm a pothead and I consume. And they would just be taken aback. They would not know how to react because they could not believe, I think I was the mayor at that time, they could not believe that their mayor was pushing a cannabis ordinance and was telling them, I consume it, and no, you don't get to tell me what I'm going to medicate with because you're all a bunch of hypocrites because I've taken shots of tequila with you. Then everybody would laugh and we would move on with the policy, right? But that's a little bit of my story. Now that I'm here, as I'm transitioning out from being the elected official, the policymaker, now I've found something very important. The cannabis industry needs people to interpret the world of local municipalities, or what I call helping the traditional market become part of the compliant market. They need interpretation. They don't know what a conditional use permit is. They think, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a cannabis operating license. Now I have my temporary state approval. Now I can get to working. And I'm like, where's your occupancy certificate? Did you get your inspections done? Did you do this? So I was super happy that Cal OSHA was here today because people don't understand. At the end of the day, you are putting together companies. You are now corporate. You are establishing a major business that's going to give you a lot of economic opportunities. And as an elected official, I would not ever deny being a politician. I am a proud politician. There's two types of public servants. There's your diplomat and the politician. The diplomat will do a bunch of research and won't make a decision to save their own life. Then there's the politician. We'll do the research, make a decision, roll up our sleeves and get it done because we only care about keeping 50 plus one of the people happy because it's a democratic system. So I took that attitude, pushed it through my city, and when they were talking about 5-6% taxation, I said, are you crazy? You're setting up these people to fail. If our intent is to create revenue for our cities, why are you overtaxing them? Do you not remember being a small business owner yourself? Do you not realize everything that it entails? Workers' comp, insurance, training, the investment of the build-out. So the best I was able to do was 2.5% and 2%. I think I did pretty good based on the fact that we got ours approved in 2016. The city of Linwood was the first city that was able to get an operator to receive the first temporary manufacturing permit from the state of California. And I'm proud to say that we were able to recruit good, reputable brands to our city. And that's my story, and I'm very excited to be here.
Lady? Yes. Eva Castro, por favor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name
Adi, I know you're doing some great work as well with corporate responsibility and some of the work you're doing as a licensee and brand. So I don't know, anything you want to add regarding the work that's going on, regarding the need for corporate responsibility or some of the other programs or things that we need to do to make sure we get a piece?
Mr. Grant said something very, very important. He didn't create social equity as a welfare program. It's an opportunity program. So this is the opportunity for us, individuals, including us up here, we understand you, that were victims of the prohibition of cannabis in our communities. It's our opportunity to do business in an industry that damaged our communities. But how do we do that? Unfortunately, one of the reasons our communities fall victim to these types of things is because, one, we're not properly informed. We don't even know the basics of Government 101. And two, more importantly, when we do think of being the entrepreneur and being the business owner, we do it with the mentality of an employee and not that of a boss. We're not thinking like bosses. We're not putting together business plans. We're not thinking things through. We're looking for shortcuts. That's what I've experienced in my community, not just with the cannabis industry, but all small business owners. And a lot of it has to do because of the overregulation and our lack of involvement in our local governments. Now, I'm lucky. I'm part of a local government that's very small. We're only 4.9 square miles, and there's only 5 council members. So it's easy for me to convince 4 other council members, or maybe make fun of them behind the scenes and tell them, if you don't support this, I'm going to start, because I'm known for putting people on blast on the dais. I had one colleague that opposed it. The other 4 completely stood behind me. One of them was the pastor. So the people who were opposing it started protesting outside his church, coming to the council meeting and attacking him. And I told him, Mr. Hernandez, I said, I know this is probably going to be embarrassing to you and difficult because of your church, but I need you to do me a favor. I need you to tell them why. So he finally said it. He says, this goes against my religion, everything that I preach in the church. But when my brother died of AIDS and cannabis was his only relief, I knew that I couldn't oppose it. So I said, what do you need me to do? How do you need me to do it? So him and I, when our other colleagues were making decisions based on self-preservation, what looked good, what story, headline was going to look good, what they needed to be worried about, being reelected or not being reelected. One of them was a former school board member, and he was like, oh no, I represented the schools for 10 years, how could I do this? So I say all this to you guys because the main reason for the misconception of the cannabis industry, or what your typical consumer is, or who is a social equity individual, the misconception is there because we're not taking the time to, one, educate ourselves and educate other people. So I was very lucky enough to receive a social equity license with my partners for cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution in phase 2. We're not operating because even though we do have a temporary operating permit, my partners got all excited and they're like, yeah, let's rock and roll. And I'm like, nope, I'm here to keep you compliant. So they didn't like it, but now they're happy because when the BCC started doing some inspections, they were like, wow, you saved us. So why do I point that out to you guys? Yes, it's going to be expensive to do it the right way, but it's going to save you so much money in the long run. It's important that you take the time to find professionals. Why do I say that? Especially in my community. We have this tendency to talk to the neighbor or the comadre, and whatever the neighbor or the comadre recommends it to, whatever attorney, which you end up finding out was really a notary, but because they call them a licenciado, and that means attorney in Spanish, you're like, yeah, licenciado, and next thing you know, you just got, fraud, because your money was taken, you were miseducated, misinformed, and you went and took the wrong decision. So please do not do what your compadre or your neighbor is telling you to do. Do not take advice from the trapper. You guys know what I'm talking about. You need to decide either you're going to keep on trapping or you're going to do this right. Because if you're trapping out and trying to do this compliant, you are part of the problem. You're the reason. And all you're doing is damaging your own opportunity. Once you start a legitimate business and you give people employment, they're depending on you. And the beauty of the industry now being legalized is that now we can put them on payroll. Now, if for whatever reason we need to lay them off, they qualify for unemployment. Whereas before they didn't have these opportunities. So what I would like to offer to you guys, it's not always about making money. Yes, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur and I'm going to be part of this cannabis industry very proudly. But at the same time, I want to be a resource to you. I want to help as many other females be part of this industry. Gentlemen, I'll help you too, because at the end of the day, I know your woman is the boss, and I'll just talk to her and give her direction so that you don't forget I'm playing. But at the end of the day, it's about really, truly, if we're really going to help each other, we need to learn how to share our resources, come together as associations. When you do join an association, be careful that they actually understand the politics, because I'm also seeing associations not understanding the politics. I'll give you an example. The Linwood Cannabis Association. They have development agreements with 10 years. Why would you agree to that? Who receives a development agreement with a time limitation? So I told them, go and lobby to get that amended. Well, they got more concerned with whether or not they can transfer it and selling it and all that. By the time it got to council, the original intent to amend the ordinance never happened, because at the same time, there was a re-election going on in my city. And then guess what? The politicians start treating you like ATM machines. You don't know any better. You start handing over contributions thinking, yeah, I'm in. And guess what? You were just taken for a ride. And I'm speaking to you as a politician. That was one thing that I was very proud to say, that I took absolutely no money from any of the 19 operators in my city. I even closed my campaign account. I'm termed out. I don't need to fundraise anymore. So you didn't need to wine and dine me. I'm just here as a resource. My goal is to make sure I can assist every single one of you guys as much as possible with whatever free information I can give you as to how to run your businesses like a legitimate corporate entity, so that you could create and leave a legacy for your families and go back into your communities and reinvest that money in your communities, please. Thank you.
Armando, you wanna...
So we're gonna see that entire panel
in just a little bit.
In just a little bit, but we wanted to get into the conversation. Chela, you were saying?
Your prompt was?
She owns two businesses that the LA Times basically said, and here's a paragraph that kind of stuck out to me. Castro didn't report any of her dealings in the marijuana business on state-required financial forms until earlier this year, when she disclosed that she is a partner in 2 marijuana cultivation ventures. She reported that her ownership stakes are worth millions of dollars. Both the businesses are located outside the city, but one of her partners is embroiled in a legal dispute in part over ownership of a marijuana manufacturing license in Linwood. So it's her partner, a company
it's
that
part
she's...
of her.
Yeah.
But the residents of Linwood are upset about 19 cannabis businesses in their 4.9 square mile town.
Right. Taking over empty warehouses.
They are upset about it.
Yeah.
And I am trying to see their point of view. And I feel like I'm being looked at like a white outsider.
Well.
And I'm not white. I just want to be on the record. I'm not white.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Let's just be clear. My skin may be very fair, but I'm not white. I'm Jewish. So there.
That's right. That's good. They keep saying Bernie's white too, but he's not. He's Jewish.
Bernie's Jewish. Bernie's really, really Jewish. He had family that died in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
He's like super. I mean, I might have also, but I don't know about that. Anyway, so I keep trying to understand this point of view, and I keep hearing the argument. I just keep hearing that cannabis is not good for their community, and I don't understand why.
Well, if you
I haven't heard the reason why. I've heard cannabis is like alcohol, liquor stores, and cannabis is not. So that's a bad foundation. Cannabis has been bad for our community. Right. That's why now it's going to reinvest in your community and, help everybody out. I would press to make sure that the businesses are reinvesting in the community and making sure to hire the people within the community and teaching people how to do stuff that are ancillary businesses that go along with cannabis businesses. Like, for instance, our little business. We film panels now at these cannabis events.
That's right. We have a business doing that now.
Yeah. And that has nothing to do with cannabis itself. But it's a business related that's growing up around the cannabis industry.
That is actually the vast majority of the businesses that are sparking up around cannabis are businesses that don't touch the plant whatsoever.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to our viewers over there on Facebook: Dewey Vaughn, Tony Kramer,
No.
Dan Hagobian. You know these people?
Not all of them.
Not all of them. Just some of them. I didn't realize you knew them. I just wanted to acknowledge the viewers over there on the on the Facebook.
Cool.
As well as the now I had other people to acknowledge. Oh, over there on D Live, Dabba Cannabis 420 jumping in. Thanks for the follow over there on D Live. Wherever you're at, guys, subscribe, get notifications, like, pass it on, share. We are multi-streaming on YouTube, Facebook, as you see, Facebook, D Live, Twitch.
One Love, Alexa says, like One Love.
One Love
is watching on the other
is
thing.
watching. Yes, absolutely. And what is it? Oh, cannabis is demonized. Yes, it is demonetized too. Demonized in many cities because churches hate you for the smoke pot and understand that God and the Bible is BS. Phil Britton, Pirate Radio, broadcasting over 4 square miles in Cortez, Colorado. Thanks, Phil. It's about freedom. Since Alexis Bortel is in the chat, let's talk about the fact that it is about freedom and liberty. Even those that try to use the sacred plant under religious freedom are shut down. Under apparently the Second Amendment is irrelevant with cannabis freedom, at least medical cannabis freedom. I don't know if recreational counts, but I think it does too. Any illicit drug use is you're not supposed to be able to buy a gun.
Right.
So they've changed that in Oklahoma.
I don't know how you can do that. It's a federal law.
But
apparently
they passed
license.
something in the state that says, no, you're good.
I don't understand how they can do it, but I know they did it, but I don't understand. Whatever.
But there you go. So there your religion, your Second Amendment. That's First Amendment, Second Amendment, search and seizure. Come on. Forfeiture. Come on. They love to take your shit.
Brian Arbor says I look very white.
Yes.
I'm Jewish.
It's all that blood. It's all that cannabis blood.
You know what? Saying that I look very white is very colorism.
Colorism.
I learned that recently from my very woke, super woke friends. My super woke friends who totally think I'm white.
Listen, when you were in Hawaii, people thought you were Portuguese.
Yeah, I was cool with that. I'm not Howley. That's all I know.
I never made it out of the Howley column.
Because you're super Howley, baby.
But I surfed that wave.
You were a good Howley manager.
I surfed that wave by never getting in the water.
That's right.
That's the first way I did it.
That's a good way to do that. Stay out somewhere you don't belong.
Stay out of I tried to learn to surf once.
Yeah.
Once. It almost killed me. Yeah. And it wasn't any of the other surfers. It was just me paddling. It was the only thing that killed me.
Yeah, well, I think you'd be better now. You're more in shape now.
I'm in a little better shape than
anyway,
I was
we're
then.
Totally digressing.
We digress.
Let's get back to this
it's
story.
What we do.
Because the story is
Well, we need to wrap up this story and get into the full panel and the afterburn.
Right.
Because we are going to play that entire panel from the State of Cannabis, that amazing social justice panel. And you're going to hear from a couple other amazing voices, as well as the council member.
Listen, I love council member Castro. I think she's doing fucking hero's work.
And listen.
But I really am concerned about the mixing of her business with her role as a city council member. I would definitely want that to be looked into.
My feeling is that when she got out of,
or learn more about that,
when she got out of politics, leaving Rendon's office, smart move.
Totally smart move.
She should have just gone full scale consulting and used her connections and not jumped onto a city council that makes it look, and then not disclose stuff right away. I mean, it's just, I think everything she said and the way she said it and everything I heard
I love
on
it.
that panel
She's fantastic.
was exactly the way it should be.
She's great.
And that should, anyway, and that town, that community should be thrilled that
I would
those
like
types
them
of
to
businesses,
be thrilled, but apparently they're not thrilled.
and that way of thinking is coming to that city. I is it just me? Because we have, we live near towns that are been
God, it'd be nice if it was in Glass Hill
uplifted
Park.
over years.
Oh, it'd be nice if it was
or
right down
coming.
the hill.
And
I'll take those businesses.
But LA in the city of LA, there are only 200 more licenses, I think, right? That we're going to hear on that next panel or so that are being given out. And they're all in the city of Los Angeles. And they're all social justice, all social equity licenses.
Yeah, 200.
So these licenses are all going to go to areas that fall under social equity.
Yep.
Of course, Linwood has 19 businesses. We need more communities to say, welcome, bring in the businesses that are increasing property values. That's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Bringing in quality
employees,
because everybody's got to be tested, double tested. Security is up the yin yang. They got to be background tested, blood tested, fingerprinted, anal probed.
I'm like, what are you talking about? The whole idea is so that people who were disproportionately impacted could get into this business. So,
You still got to jump through a ton of hoops, and it's the most secure, overregulated medicinal herb on the planet.
It really is. It's the most secure.
And it's still never killed anybody except for the prohibition of it all. Is the only thing that's killed anybody. Oh my God, he smelled like weed. Bang!
Horrible.
I'm terrified by that reefer madness that is coming out of him because I smelled the weed.
And if that's the reason,
that's the way they think, man.
Why cannabis is bad for your community, then all the more reason you should be making money from the sale of it, in my humble opinion. But again, I'm white looking. The fuck do I know?
I did my 23andMe, and I have no claim of anything other than 100% white European. So
no, I'm not white.
I will remain a recovering white American male.
Thank you just much. Listen. Just listen.
Just listen. Timbuktu, I Need a New Church. Aldous Huxley, Phil Britton says, was The Door of Perception. Yes, great book. It was A Door of Perception to read also, yes. But Doors of Perception was also an excellent read.
Alexis Portel may have burned her bridges with Texas legislators today on her Twitter.
Really?
Worth it. Listen.
Worth it
for sure. Always stand up for your truth, and that's, what can you do? You got to. I love that you did that. So right on. I'm going to read it.
Listen,
I'm not on the Twitter very much, so, I don't pay attention, but now I'm going to go.
If we don't push the envelope and really push for what we want and what the way it should be, we're never going to get anywhere close to it. If we just immediately accept their no home grow,
only making money on it.
Only making money. For profit only models. Yeah. No compassion, which is where cannabis comes from, is compassion.
That's right.
So, I personally loved what I heard on that panel from Eva Castro. Mm-hmm. And I think that...
I did too.
I don't get the feeling that there's shenanigans going on. I wish she was more open about what she was doing.
I'm sure it'll all be disclosed eventually.
I'm sure it all will. You know how the fake news can be. You got to check your, and this was a news story, so I'm sure this story will develop, and we will certainly, you're certainly open to talking about it with any parties concerned, here on the show, to explore it further, because we're now in the space and we're creating more and more original content,
yes,
which includes, education, both political, business, medical, in this space, as well as, our cute little chat show where we get really high and talk about the news. Medicate, sorry. Because when you recreate, you medicate.
Every time you use cannabis, it's medicinal.
It's medicinal.
Every single time, you just don't know what you're medicating from. If you feel better when you use cannabis, it's medicine.
It's medicine, that's right.
So it's taken me a long time to really embrace that idea, but now I've gotten there, and now I understand it, and I'm hoping to impart that knowledge to other people through the chasing of all these symposiums and putting them on the channel.
That's right.
We're going to have to call something that is completely not cannabis-y.
Innocuous, but with enough code so that they figure out, some people figure out what it is.
Well, we have to name the panels what they were, so anyway.
But our show, Reefer Revolution, will stay on Sundays at 4:20, where we spark up, talk about marijuana in the mainstream media, the politics of pot, and cannabis cures. And we're going to come up with another altered tagline, I think. But
whatever, we're evolving.
We're evolving.
It's all good, and we're glad that you guys are along for the ride. Do you just want to play the whole panel, or
yeah, I
do
was
you
going
need
to play
to shut down and do all
we don't
that
need to shut
again?
down. We don't need to shut down. We're just going to keep it going. No sense doing that. I can cut it up later. It's relatively easy. Timbuktu getting banned all over the place.
Yeah.
On YouTube. I don't think Tim, you
and
ever done
Jimmy Dore. Wow, Timbuktu. What did you get banned from Jimmy Dore from?
I don't think you've ever done anything too bad that you would get banned here. I don't know how you would.
No.
That's why we stick to cannabis.
I have never silenced him.
We try to, have you? Never?
I've never.
We try, that's why we try to keep it to cannabis, you know? I mean, it brings all people together. Even USC and UCLA is coming together over cannabis. True. So, you know, what can you do? Freedom Grower. Hey, I took a break and was amazed how much cannabis helps my digestion.
Ah, you see?
Oh, interesting.
You know,
stopped using it, and then you notice your digestion got worse?
Yes.
Oh, GOT almost on. Yes, Blaster Master, it's true.
It's true.
We must move on to that. So let's play, for our afterburn tonight, we're going to play our latest panel, where that whole panel, you saw little parts of it. Yeah. But we want to hear what Councilmember Castro has to say again, because what she does say is super important. Yep. And it's right where it should be with these the way the social equity program should be going. Yep. So don't take that Tylenol, Brian Wilkerson. Take the CBD. What will Tylenol do now? Not poison people, not kill your liver. None of this stuff. I
don't care what Tylenol is going to do. It doesn't matter to me.
I love to see the destruction of big pharma. I love to see the destruction of big tobacco. Hey, and listen, if they want, as long as they don't put chemicals in it, they want to grow hemp and get people smoking that, I think that's not a bad thing too.
I'm good with that too.
We welcome everybody to cannabis. The alcohol companies,
There's room for everyone.
Let's get people off the bud and onto the bud. You get me? I like that idea. Rather a 12-pack of buds instead. A 12 gram pack of buds as opposed to a 12 can pack of Budweiser, but not so wiser. Quick, let's play a panel.
Quick, we're going to move into the cannabis, state of cannabis.
All right.
Social justice, culture, and shit. So close.
Not shit.
Not shit. I'm sorry, you guys. Social justice, culture, and economic opportunities panel from the state of cannabis in its entirety. We might jump in a couple times.
We may, if there's something that grabs our fancy.
There's a few things that grab my fancy, so we'll probably see in a few.
Okay, yeah, so we'll jump in.
And we'll chat about it in the chat.
Off, yeah, we'll chat about it in the chat, and if it goes off, we'll stop the panel. This is the premiere of the second panel that we put up and recorded from the state of cannabis. And here we go. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, get notifications, like, do whatever you do. Thanks.
This is the quote-unquote keep it real panel. So, you know, we got our peoples up here. So I didn't tell them that, but they already knew that when I asked them to be here. So we'll go down.
That's a compliment.
Well, without further ado, let's say, how about that for a start? I'll go down the line, and if we can have each of the panelists introduce themselves, and really, you know, what's your personal history and with cannabis and/or the effects of the war on drugs? You want to start with Armando?
Yeah, my name is Armando Gudiño. I work with the Drug Policy Alliance, one of the nation's, one of the largest drug reform organizations. And at our core, our work is to end the war on drugs, end the prohibition of marijuana, and to address the historic injustices caused by what has undoubtedly become one of the most significant and largest failed policies in the history of this country, both internationally, nationally, and certainly locally. I've been with DPA for about 8 years, and I came to them by way of a history of doing work in the drug policy community, marijuana community, dating back to actually to Proposition 215. I've over the years specialized in areas involving Latino demographics, and have more recently been focusing a lot on the impact the war on drugs has had specifically on the Latino community. I specialize on issues of international transnational criminal drug organizations. And as far as my own personal involvement, DPA, we do a lot of work not only in marijuana legal issues, regulation and legalization, but we also focus on criminal justice reforms and harm reduction. For those of you who aren't familiar with harm reduction, it's an area of policy that looks at the direct and collateral consequences of drug use and the application of drug laws. So to give you a very specific example, we're talking about programs like syringe exchange. And one of the things that first brought me to drug policy work is many, many years ago during my tenure at college, I actually had a girlfriend who accidentally overdosed on drugs. And when I found her that evening, after being woken up in the middle of a night's sleep, I picked her up, dragged her up, and took her to the local hospital, where I subsequently was arrested and charged with her demise, albeit as an accidental overdose. She had been partying with her girlfriends. And I came to learn that in this state at the time, that if you brought somebody into the hospital who had been in an overdose or who was overdosing, you would be charged with that subsequent act. And at the time, the presumption of law was that if she overdosed, well, you were obviously partying with her, so you participated in what ultimately became her demise. So as I sat in jail, my girlfriend passed. So it was one of those realities that hits you. And I'm proud to say that 10, 15 years later, I found myself in a very unique position at DPA then, and where we worked on a landmark piece of legislation called the Good Samaritan Amendment. And what that law basically did was it changed the rules by which you can incarcerate a person for merely helping them during an overdose. And instead of actually arresting a person, we now protect individuals for informing authorities when an overdose is happening. And I'm very proud to say that that is something that I was a part of, considering how I got involved into that particular area of harm reduction. And ironically, we found ourselves, what the biggest challenge was, we had to inform drug users about that law. But anyway, long introduction, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Sorry for taking up the time.
Thank you. Lady? Yes. Eva Castro, por favor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Eva Castro. I've been on the Linwood City Council for 11 years now. Thankfully, I'll be done December 2020. Very much looking forward to that. That doesn't pay the bills, so I do have a consultant company that I formed back in 2013. My consultant company, ASM Premier Consultants, started as a government affairs consulting firm. 2015, I have 6 years of legislative experience. I worked 3 years for then Assembly Member Isidore Hall, and 3 years with our current Speaker of the Assembly, Mr. Anthony Rundon. I left his office in March of 2017 so I could focus completely on my consulting firm. But while I was working in his office in 2015, Assemblymember Reggie Jones-Sawyer was working on combining the MRSA and AMA rules here in the state of California, and at the same time, Prop 64 was being developed. So being a city council member, I quickly realized that I had two opportunities. One, the opportunity of economic development with my background in real estate. I immediately saw an opportunity to rejuvenate our manufacturing area that was underutilized, and we weren't really benefiting from the property taxes that we could be benefiting, because a lot of those properties hadn't been touched since like the early 50s or 60s. So we weren't getting the full property tax benefit because they were protected under Prop 13. I knew if the cannabis industry came into our city, they would immediately start buying up these warehouses, and now the city would benefit from the new property tax value at the new purchase sale. So that was my original intent. But my subconscious was reminding me of when I got arrested at, I think I was 21, 22. I was a passenger in a vehicle with some friends that had a lot of cannabis in the car. I had already started consuming. And the reason I started consuming was because I worked at the phone company. It was a National Multilingual Center for GTE back then, now Verizon. I just aged myself. And I developed carpal tunnel and tendonitis. I have a little cyst here on my arm that I never let them remove because they would always tell me, well, it's a 50-50 chance. And the muscle relaxers that they gave me basically made me feel like a zombie, and I couldn't function. So a friend handed me a joint. I took my first drag, and I was the happiest camper ever. And I've been consuming discreetly for a lot of years. But when I said, okay, I'm going to bring this before my community, I can't be a hypocrite. I have to be honest. I have to tell them, hey, when you say, oh, those people that do marijuana, I would always ask them, so what do you think a person that does marijuana look like? And they would describe, your typical, what we unfairly call a pothead. And then when they would finish, I'd be like, nice to meet you, I'm a pothead and I consume. And they would just be taken aback. They would not know how to react because they could not believe, I think I was the mayor at that time, they could not believe that their mayor was pushing a cannabis ordinance and was telling them, I consume it, and no, you don't get to tell me what I'm going to medicate with because you're all a bunch of hypocrites because I've taken shots of tequila with you. Then everybody would laugh and we would move on with the policy, right? But that's a little bit of my story. Now that I'm here, as I'm transitioning out from being the elected official, the policymaker, now I've found something very important. The cannabis industry needs people to interpret the world of local municipalities, or what I call helping the traditional market become part of the compliant market. They need interpretation. They don't know what a conditional use permit is. They think, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a cannabis operating license. Now I have my temporary state approval. Now I can get to working. And I'm like, where's your occupancy certificate? Did you get your inspections done? Did you do this? So I was super happy that Cal OSHA was here today because people don't understand. At the end of the day, you are putting together companies. You are now corporate. You are establishing a major business that's going to give you a lot of economic opportunities. And as an elected official, I would not ever deny being a politician. I am a proud politician. There's two types of public servants. There's your diplomat and the politician. The diplomat will do a bunch of research and won't make a decision to save their own life. Then there's the politician. We'll do the research, make a decision, roll up our sleeves and get it done because we only care about keeping 50 plus one of the people happy because it's a democratic system. So I took that attitude, pushed it through my city, and when they were talking about 5-6% taxation, I said, are you crazy? You're setting up these people to fail. If our intent is to create revenue for our cities, why are you overtaxing them? Do you not remember being a small business owner yourself? Do you not realize everything that it entails? Workers' comp, insurance, training, the investment of the build-out. So the best I was able to do was 2.5% and 2%. I think I did pretty good based on the fact that we got ours approved in 2016. The city of Linwood was the first city that was able to get an operator to receive the first temporary manufacturing permit from the state of California. And I'm proud to say that we were able to recruit good, reputable brands to our city. And that's my story, and I'm very excited to be here.
Good afternoon. My name is Virgil Grant. Been involved in the industry since the beginning. Like a lot of my colleagues that have been in the industry from day one, we predate legalization. So you guys that know that, I mean, you know, that have been there, understand that. Measure M was my creation in the city of Los Angeles. Social equity wouldn't exist if it wasn't for me. There was a need to speak up, what about us? And no one was speaking up towards that. A lot of us that come from the pre-ICO era, you know, we kind of checked the box and said it's done, it's made, it's over with. And it's not done, it's not made, and it's not over with. Even now, we're still continuing the fight. But nonetheless, Measure M is something I can hang my hat on. Social equity is something I can go down in history with. I've always been an industry player, fighter, advocate, owner-operator. I own 3 pre-ICOs, micro businesses in the city of Los Angeles, also a Phase 2 applicant, and pushing to help Phase 3 go through as smooth as possible. I know a lot of people are waiting for Phase 3 to come in and are unfamiliar with what it's going to look like in the city of Los Angeles, but the only thing I can say is be patient. You know, and people are saying, you know, we've been patient enough, but you have to understand this is the 5th largest financial power in the world, LA. And that wasn't done overnight. So you can't expect Phase 3 to get done overnight. Be patient, it's coming, and it will roll out. There are going to be 200 licenses given under Phase 3, so I want you guys to be very aware of that. And please, people of color, I kick the door open for you, and the people that back my play on that, we kick the door open for you. Take full advantage of it. So that's what I've done.
You know, they can only kick in the door, but it's up to us to get on up in there, right? So thank you for that, and thank you for everyone and their stories. You know, as you see, cannabis is something that's personal. It's unlike any other industry. This is something that comes from the heart, especially this panel here, and as we talk about social justice, the war on drugs and the effects. You know, it's hard to talk about cannabis and not talk about the effects of the war on drug and what it's played to what it's done to its culture, to us, you know, the stigma that we've all had to live with now that we can kind of come free, right? You know, I would sit here and tell you the time I've got arrested, but we might just be here too long. So, you know, it's just one of the many, right? But more so, you know, thank God I have nothing too major. But, you know, the fact that we've always had to deal with this, whether it's an official record or even in your own household or in your workplace or in your life, you know, I always, you know, Latinos, you know, some of our cultures and some of our minority cultures, you know, there's some stigma that we're still fighting and really need to work on with defining certain cultures. So for us, you know, it's always been, don't be one of those marihuaneros smoking in the corner, but go grab me a chela. You know, it's like, okay, a beer for those of you. So not Coach Chela out there. So with that, you know, it's really a personal thing, and for all of us, including myself, you know, I have an organization called Collective Strategies, and what we're doing is really about access, inclusion, and diversity into all work and business opportunities. Those not just jobs, but really careers. As we look, you know, I was fortunate to work in the city, the mayor's office, and representing the community for over 15 years in nonprofit work. And really see what the community needs. And at the end of the day, if we ain't getting the jobs or the careers that really matter, if we're not becoming the owners, you know, we're always going to be servant to the masters. So for us, it's about us becoming those owners, taking this opportunity now that it's here in front of us, and, you know, not having any regrets. You know, no one needs to invite us. We created this table for all of you guys and for people like us to be here and unite. And we're bringing everybody, you know, black, brown, white, women, formerly incarcerated. That's the work we want to do, and at the end of the day, that's what cannabis is about, and that's why I love it, and that's why we're here, proud now to say that we consume, and we're here learning about all the opportunities. So with that, why don't we maybe go backwards and talk a little bit more about, I'm saying reverse order here, but the next question is what are these efforts? So you touched on, Virgil, phase 3. Why don't we talk a little bit more about what's going on with phase 3, and more so what type of work you may be doing or what you're pushing for the city to do, especially around, that economic opportunity and that social justice aspect.
So right now we're fighting for money to be handed to phase 3. There's $10 million, and of course you have now all of a sudden, I think about 7 to almost 8 counties that are trying to reach for that money. And this is, keep in mind, this is social equity money. Like, who was talking about social equity? LA, Oakland, and then, when you look at LA, now you have other counties that are reaching for it. Rio Dale, have you guys ever heard of Rio Dale? Maybe those that are from Northern California, you can run through Rio Dale in about 2 minutes. And they're talking about a social equity program. So, I feel that it's my responsibility as someone who brought this conversation to light and then stayed very connected to the crafting of this policy, and also the money which came from Prop 64 via Alice Huffman, the head of the NAACP, who really fought hard as well for that $10 million to come down, because she was connected with the Governor Brown at the time, and so right now we're making sure the money goes where the money needs to. You have to keep in mind right now, LA holds the most licenses in the whole country. So if the money goes anywhere, it needs to go where there's more licensing. So phase 3 will roll out. Of course, there was a lot of talk about whether it would be merit-based, lotto, or first come, first serve. So there was a proposal for a lotto and a merit-based, and I myself, which everybody else did as well, spoke against both merit-based and lotto, because they do not work. It's first come, first serve. You get in line, you put your application in. If your application is correct and everything is, your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted, then God bless you. You get your license. We know lottos are rigged. You could look at Long Beach, you could look at Orange County, and you can see who got majority of those licenses. And it was one person that got the majority of the licenses in Long Beach and in Orange County. So we know lotto doesn't work. Merit-based will kill a lot of us. And the reason why is because then when I talked about social equity, my main thing was barriers to entry. Merit-based becomes a barrier to entry, and it becomes a huge barrier to entry. So that was the reason why I shot down merit-based, and I'm sure a lot of people that was in the same room with me that shot down merit-based, that was the reason behind that. So we got it first come, first served. The first 100 licenses that'll be released, because keep in mind, you can apply for 3 retails under this social equity, but you only get 1 out of the first 100. And then when the second 100 is released, then you'll be able to apply for those other 2. So it'll be the first 100 that'll come off. Once those first 100 are gone through, then the other 100 will be released. Now, that one after another is not etched in stone. There is, I think on Monday, if I'm not mistaken, a Rules Committee coming out. I have to double check on that. But there are some new proposals from City Council. This is a car that's moving. And it's always moving and taking turns every day. So you have to stay in tune. If you are very interested in becoming a Phase 3 applicant, you want to, pay attention to what LA is doing. Go on to the DCR website, put your email in, get on their mailing list so that you can receive email updates because you will get the updates as meetings are coming out for council. So that's what phase 3 looks like. In order to qualify, there's basically tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 is people that have felony convictions or misdemeanor, any type of cannabis conviction on their record, nonviolent. Tier 2 would be the impact zones. If you live in the impact zone, or if you are low income and live in the impact zone, that's tier 2. Those are the qualifications for a social equity applicant. When I created social equity, the first thing I stayed away from was race. And the reason for that is because I knew that I would receive litigation from those who didn't consider themselves minority. And so in order for us not to have a community that had been negatively impacted, then therefore negatively impacted one more time through litigation and holding up these licenses from being released, I didn't mention race once in social equity. So if you live in Humboldt County, Southern Humboldt, which was one of the hardest hit communities up in Northern California by the field war on drugs, then you qualify for social equity. So keep in mind, this is a statewide program. It's no longer just LA, Oakland, Sacramento. It is now a California state program. But this was the reasoning behind that. So if you were a white person and you lived in Compton and you were hit by the field war on drugs, then yes, indeed, you qualify for social equity. So I like to always be clear about that. But when you look at the impact zones, we know where the field war on drugs hit the most. South LA, East LA, and areas of the valley, and other communities that I probably can't name offhand, but they are designated and they have those designated zones, and you can look at on the DCR website and pull that information off of there. So if you live in the impact zone and you are low income, then you qualify, as I say, for second tier social equity. That's pretty much what qualifications you will need. It's pretty simple. It's nothing difficult. Of course, you would like to have your location. Of course, you would like to make sure that you are well funded. Because one thing that I always say is that I didn't think and create social equity as a welfare program. It's not that. It's an opportunity that we would not have otherwise gotten to equally participate in the cannabis industry if you had a felony conviction. Because prior to this, if you were a felon, you couldn't even work inside the cannabis industry at all, not even dump the trash can, mop the floor, any of that. And so, of course, where I come from, I grew up in the city of Compton, and I know that did not exist. I could not let that happen because of the community of where I came from. I grew up in Compton, but I went to school in Linwood, and so I was a part of that community as well. Graduated from Linwood High. And the same exists in Linwood's community. There are felons that have cannabis crimes. I also did 6 years in federal prison for owning and operating the same 3 licensed cannabis facilities that the state and the city licensed me in today. Go figure that.
Full circle there.
So, thank you. So when I came home, the only thing was on my mind is what about us? What about those 51% of the people that were sitting in prison for nonviolent cannabis felonies? And I knew that once they got out, they wouldn't be able to play in the industry that they helped create. Because keep in mind, if it wasn't for the street hustler and the cat up in the backwoods in Humboldt growing that weed, and us going up there and bringing it down to L.A., Compton, Watts, it wouldn't be no industry. There wouldn't be an industry for the people to take advantage of to this day.
Thank you, Virgil.
So I'm always saying, what about us? Who thinks about us? Well, I tell you, I did.
There you go.
And here's social equity.
Thank you, Virgil. 80, I know you're doing some great work as well with corporate responsibility and some of the work you're doing as a licensee and brand. So I don't know, anything you want to add regarding the work that's going on regarding the need for corporate responsibility, or some of the other programs or things that we need to do to make sure we get a piece?
Mr. Grant said something very, very important. He didn't create social equity as a welfare program. It's an opportunity program. So this is the opportunity for us, individuals, including us up here, we understand you, that we're victims of the prohibition of cannabis in our communities. It's our opportunity to do business in an industry that damaged our communities. But how do we do that? Unfortunately, one of the reasons our communities fall victim to these types of things is because, one, we're not properly informed. We don't even know the basics of Government 101. And two, more importantly, when we do think of being the entrepreneur and being the business owner, we do it with the mentality of an employee and not that of a boss. We're not thinking like bosses. We're not putting together business plans. We're not thinking things through. We're looking for shortcuts. That's what I've experienced in my community, not just with the cannabis industry, but all small business owners. And a lot of it has to do because of the overregulation and our lack of involvement in our local governments. Now, I'm lucky. I'm part of a local government that's very small. We're only 4.9 square miles, and there's only 5 council members. So it's easy for me to convince 4 other council members, or maybe make fun of them behind the scenes and tell them, if you don't support this, I'm going to start, because I'm known for putting people on blast on the dais. I had one colleague that opposed it. The other 4 completely stood behind me. One of them was the pastor. So the people who were opposing it started protesting outside his church, coming to the council meeting and attacking him. And I told him, Mr. Hernandez, and I said, I know this is probably going to be embarrassing to you and difficult because of your church, but I need you to do me a favor. I need you to tell them why. So he finally said it. He says, this goes against my religion, everything that I preach in the church. But when my brother died of AIDS and cannabis was his only relief, I knew that I couldn't oppose it. So I said, what do you need me to do? How do you need me to do it? So him and I, when our other colleagues were making decisions based on self-preservation, what looked good, what story, headline was going to look good, what they needed to be worried about, being reelected or not being reelected. One of them was a former school board member, and he was like, oh no, I represented the schools for 10 years, how could I do this? So I say all this to you guys because the main reason for the misconception of the cannabis industry, or what your typical consumer is, or who is a social equity individual, the misconception is there because we're not taking the time to, one, educate ourselves and educate other people. So I was very lucky enough to receive a social equity license with my partners for cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution in phase 2. We're not operating because even though we do have a temporary operating permit, my partners got all excited and they're like, yeah, let's rock and roll. And I'm like, nope, I'm here to keep you compliant. So they didn't like it, but now they're happy because when the BCC started doing some inspections, they were like, wow, you saved us. So why do I point that out to you guys? Yes, it's going to be expensive to do it the right way, but it's going to save you so much money in the long run. It's important that you take the time to find professionals. Why do I say that? Especially in my community. we have this tendency to talk to the neighbor or the comadre, and whatever the neighbor or the comadre recommends it to, whatever attorney, which you end up finding out was really a notary, but because they call them a licenciado, and that means attorney in Spanish, you know, you're like, yeah, licenciado, and next thing you know, you just got, you know, fraud, because your money was taken, you were miseducated, misinformed, and you went and took the wrong decision. So please do not do what your compadre or your neighbor is telling you to do. Do not take advice from the trapper. You guys know what I'm talking about. You need to decide either you're going to keep on trapping or you're going to do this right. Because if you're trapping out and trying to do this compliant, you are part of the problem. You're the reason. And all you're doing is damaging your own opportunity. Once you start a legitimate business and you give people employment, they're depending on you. And the beauty of the industry now being legalized is that now we can put them on payroll. Now, if for whatever reason we need to lay them off, they qualify for unemployment. Whereas before they didn't have these opportunities. So what I would like to offer to you guys, it's not always about making money. Yes, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur and I'm going to be part of this cannabis industry very proudly. But at the same time, I want to be a resource to you. I want to help as many other females be part of this industry. Gentlemen, I'll help you too, because at the end of the day, I know your woman is the boss, and I'll just talk to her and give her direction so that you don't forget I'm playing. But at the end of the day, it's about really, truly, if we're really going to help each other, we need to learn how to share our resources, come together as associations. When you do join an association, be careful that they actually understand the politics, because I'm also seeing associations not understanding the politics. I'll give you an example. The Linwood Cannabis Association. They have development agreements with 10 years. Why would you agree to that? Who receives a development agreement with a time limitation? So I told them, go and lobby to get that amended. Well, they got more concerned with whether or not they can transfer it and selling it and all that. By the time it got to council, the original intent to amend the ordinance never happened. Because at the same time, there was a re-election going on in my city. And then guess what? The politicians start treating you like ATM machines. You don't know any better. You start handing over contributions thinking, yeah, I'm in. And guess what? You were just taken for a ride. And I'm speaking to you as a politician. That was one thing that I was very proud to say, that I took absolutely no money from any of the 19 operators in my city. I even closed my campaign account. I'm termed out. I don't need to fundraise anymore. So you didn't need to wine and dine me. I'm just here as a resource. My goal is to make sure I can assist every single one of you guys as much as possible with whatever free information I can give you as to how to run your businesses like a legitimate corporate entity so that you could create and leave a legacy for your families and go back into your communities and reinvest that money in your communities, please. Thank you.
Armando?
Thank you. As the perhaps the only person who's not directly involved in the industry. You know, it's funny, they brought up something about, you know, how there's a lot of folks today navigating, including the charlatans in the industry. And I thought of something that I need to share. Several years ago, 5-6 years ago, I found myself debating somebody on national television. And this was during, I think it was 2014. And that person was in the opposition against marijuana legalization. This is right around Colorado. And of course, I was in the affirmative. And late last year, an old colleague of mine who had abandoned us in the world of policy and went into the private sector to work in the cannabis industry calls me up and he says, hey, listen, I want to ask you about somebody whom I'm about to hire as a consultant to help me navigate my political, you know, challenges. And I said, sure, who is it? And at the time he mentioned the name and it didn't ring a bell. And he says, well, he says he knows you and that he's worked with you. Well, guess what? The guy who I debated in 2014 had now turned into a consultant for the marijuana industry. You know, but it goes to show you just, you know, how much this industry has evolved. I think it's important that, I think they've brought up some really key important issues. I want to bring it back a little bit. The reason I put all this stuff out here because, we at DPA, we're not tied to the industry as some of my colleagues up here are. We like to say we're the folks who don't give a rat's ass about marijuana. We're the folks who are very interested in seeing this develop, and we're also the people who are intimately involved in marijuana, right? So we're against, we're on the left, in the middle, and on the right. And because as policy folks, we try and ultimately develop good, responsible policy. And we feel that before there was social equity as we know it today relative to this particular conversation around your interest in this industry, I think social equity existed, and from where I would argue the foundations of this came from was the struggle for social justice in this industry. And that's very, very important to note, because while we might have not called this social equity, we were talking about social justice and the war on drugs. And, it's important that you guys take note. We keep track of numbers and records. One of the last times we followed up on the status of what the war on drugs did by 2012, 2014, we were still arresting 1.5 million people for drug law violations in this country, of which 749,000 were arrested for marijuana violations, of which, ladies and gentlemen, 88% was for possession of marijuana. That's only 4 or 5 years ago, folks. And a lot of this is not over. So while there is something to be said and feel good about, and I'm not necessarily digging on the social equity as a whole, I think it becomes very important that we remember that this fight is far from over. Just as many of you are seeking opportunities today to be included in this industry, don't lose sight of the fact that there's a lot of challenges that are coming up your way, not just only on the financial and the business side of it, but really at the ultimate, on the overall societal side of it. This country invests somewhere in the area of $50 billion a year fighting the war on drugs, $25 billion of which comes from federal funding, $25 billion of which comes from local and regional funding. And what has that done? Has made us the #1 country that most incarcerates people in the world. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? That #1 is mostly attributed to the incarceration of Black and Latino people in this country. Okay? So it is important to keep that in context. And the reason I say this is that when we first started, look, when we first legalized medical marijuana, Proposition 215, months ahead of what we knew was going to be the passage of that proposition, we went to legislators and said, hey, get ahead of the 8 ball on this one. This is going to pass. All the polls are telling us this is going to be successful. And nobody wanted to touch it. And this is why we saw a de facto legal system with no regulatory framework up until, what, 2015. 20 years, roughly, went by. And then on the eve of what we now again saw, the polling all told us that in 2016, Proposition 64 was going to pass. Many still didn't act. A lot of legislators didn't act. Many of them didn't even want to engage us on a conversation. I was part of the team that helped with the proposition in 2010 that failed. And back then we were having conversations about reparative justice within the marijuana industry. I can tell you of conversations in which we were stuck in a room in Berkeley, California, working on some of the drafting of some of this language, and a very particular incident in which myself and a couple of colleagues went up there in a room full of attorneys, mostly white, and I jokingly said, and what are we going to do about drug users and drug dealers? Because they're the #1 most equipped at this point to participate in the market. And you know what somebody said? Are you saying that drug dealers should have access to be a part of the industry? Abso-fucking-lutely. You think? Believe it or not, there was a significant push, right? So today, ladies and gentlemen, we at the Drug Policy Alliance This is just my marijuana portfolio. This big-ass stack of fucking headache, really is what you want to call it. I'm going to tell you why. We are currently monitoring 100+ legislative bills in the California legislature, both on the Senate and on the Assembly, that have a direct impact on the drug policy of this state. 100+, of which we know 58 include the language of marijuana. You might have already heard this. I don't know. I wasn't here earlier. Maybe in the legal panel. Of which 12, maybe depending on how you argue it, 14, I argue, actually could literally impact everyone here seeking, and those that already have licenses. So when you put it in that perspective, you know, it's important, and I just, you know, again, I want to remind you guys that as you navigate forward, even in the context of some of these discussion issues around social equity, it is far from over. It is imperative that you keep your eye on what has happened legislatively. That when you do seek out counsel or advice from individuals who come to you and say, I am a consultant, I am an advisor, I am a licenciado, which is not an attorney, that this cat understands the 100+ legislative bills. And the reason I say this is because although I'm saying 100+ drug policy and only 58, 60, 62 maybe that are using marijuana directly, guess what? The remaining 40 are also in part a part of the ancillary system of marijuana. There is one, and I'll give you one specific example, and I'm not going to go into the specific bill because quite frankly, we ourselves are still debating this issue. There's one bill in particular that right now, if it were to pass tomorrow, would remove the provisions that myself and some of my colleagues fought adamantly to regulate how many dispensaries can be in a particular community. Why is that problematic? When we went into this, those of us that have been fighting the social justice issues, the last fucking thing we were going to sit by and allow to happen is another proliferation in communities of color where outside interests come in and develop businesses similar to the way in which liquor stores did in communities of color that have devastated our communities. No. So the problem, though, is 2-3 years later, here we have already one effort to dismantle that. Right now, the Bureau can limit how many dispensaries when they deem it over concentration. There's one bill that says we want to remove that and allow a local agency a local government to determine that. We also right now, already in the last 3 years, have established and determined that there is more than 24 incidents of accusations, allegations, investigations, and convictions for elected officials who have taken money, briberies, and others by the marijuana industry. So put that in context. For 40 years, we've been fighting this fucking war on drugs. And just because we regulate it and just because we're about to venture into opportunities for us, don't lose sight of the fact that we're still in the crosshairs and we're still being prosecuted.
Thank you. Wow. Well, everybody, round of applause for everybody. As I said, it's keeping it real. They lack no passion. Thank you guys all for coming. They'll be around. We can get their information. We'll jump on to the next panel. Thank you once again.
Well, we will be jumping on to the next panel probably next week, but that was quite a panel.
Yeah, that was really powerful. I really enjoyed their panel live, and I hope you guys enjoyed it here.
That, of course, was from our special coverage from the state of cannabis. We've dropped some of the interviews that we premiered last week on the channel with Ariel Clark, with Maha from the Canna Club at UCLA, and many other schools. 7 of them. Lanny Swerdlow's interview is up. And we're going to be putting some more.
And Tulsi Gabbard's interview is up.
And Tulsi Gabbard is getting lots of views. Her interview that we had from the state of cannabis. That, of course, was the social justice panel with Armando Guadillo from the Drug Policy Alliance here in Los Angeles. We also went to the screening of a great documentary called High Hopes.
Yes.
Which you should track down in New York. If you're there, it will be there around
in
now,
theaters,
I think.
yeah.
Really good one that featured Virgil Grant, co-founder of California Minority Alliance, who was on that panel. And
creator of Measure M.
Creator of Measure M. And
creator of Social Equity.
Social Equity, which he should definitely take credit for. And I'm glad that he does. Now, once we learned that is pretty impressive. Measure M is actually quite a bill as well in the regulation and legitimizing of cannabis in Los Angeles. And of course, we heard again from Eva Castro, owner of ASM Premier Consultants, and currently still a council member on the city of Linwood until December 2020, where many of cannabis businesses are coming into, because it's one of the very few towns that are accepting cannabis businesses in California. And,
like you said, only 50 plus one need to be on their side.
Right. I mean,
it's a democracy, I guess.
And it seems to be doing it for the right reasons and the right way.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the businesses will work with the communities to help raise everybody up together.
We got to work extra hard. You see it even in the bigger space where companies that do try to donate to charities. Some charities say, no, we don't want your money. You're a cannabis business.
Right.
It's that kind of stuff. It's so there's still a lot of work to do as so 70 how many years or 40 years?
70 plus years of prohibition. Lots of work to be done, y'all.
This fucking business.
So the struggle continues.
We're not going anywhere. The struggle continues. I'm adjusting your camera shot, so don't.
Sorry,
change anything.
I have to sit up.
That's okay.
I've been sitting a long time. I'm done.
That's all right.
I'm done sitting. I'm going to watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's right.
Standing.
We're wrapping it up, guys, because we don't want any spoilers coming through for Game of Thrones from the East Coast feed. So we're going to wrap it up early tonight. Early. It is 6:30. But you have been watching Reefer Revolution live, where we're going to be bringing you more and more meducation. Thank you, Mr. Sparks a lot. If you're still here, thank you for that. We're going to steal that meducation.
I don't know if that was a typo or it was really good.
It was really good.
Meducation. Thank you very much. We're going to use that
here on the channel. And more panels come from the state of cannabis, more interviews, more good news coming about the documentary we're going to be making. And,
you're going to be along for the ride with us.
You're going to go along for the ride with us. We'll be doing
you're the behind the scenes
check-ins and live broadcasts while we're on the road in the middle of May up in Santa Rosa area. If anybody's going to be up there, we're going to be at, what's the name of the conference?
Medical Cannabis 2.0.
Medical Cannabis 2.0.
If you're anywhere near there, I encourage you to attend. It's free.
It's free.
You just have to register. Yeah, they're expecting about 200 people.
Right.
And they are doing really revolutionary work by gathering doctors and clinicians and home care workers and hospice workers who realize the benefits of medical cannabis for people living with dementia. So if you're in the neighborhood, it is on May 14th. Look on Eventbrite for Medical Cannabis 2.0 in Santa Rosa and register, and we'll see you there. But we will see you next weekend for another installment of Reefer Revolution Live.
Be careful what you ask for, because we asked for a conference just like that, and we got one.
Look,
so
there you go.
We're going up to cover it, get more great panels, and we will bring them to you on our Sunday show as well as on the channel. We thank you all for watching. It's off to Game of Thrones. And the question is, will the Night King show up at the Battle of Winterfell? That's the big question. So let's see. We'll see you guys next week. And free the plant, free the people. Pot for peace.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Oh, I guess I get the movie ready.
Take good care.
Oh,
that's all right.
It's right here.
You ready? Great. See you later. I know, it's going to be good. Yeah, you can watch it on our channel if you don't see it.
What's that?
Live. The Medical Cannabis 2.0.
Oh, yeah?
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be live.
We're going to have amazing content from it.
And it may even be live. Who knows?
You never know. We're going to find out.
You never know. Something's going to be live from there.
Yeah,
you're
for
definitely,
sure.
You're definitely
going to
see
be
the
an
content.
awesome thing, just like State of Cannabis was. So thanks, everybody, for all your support. We'll see you later.
All right, guys. See you later.
murderers keep murdering. The churches keep a-burning. The rapists keep a-raping. And the tide ain't turning. Uncle Sam, for all your power, things get worse every hour. It seems to me your energy's are wasted, chasing my friends and me. So, hey, Uncle Sam, hey there, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. The terrorists keep terrorizing. Our leaders keep a-lying. The haters keep a-hating. And the planet's dying. Uncle Sam, do what's proper. Call off your dogs and your helicopters. The problems of society were not caused by my friends and me. So, hey, Uncle Sam, hey there, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. How many innocent people gonna be imprisoned? We just peace and love, street pop and brotherhood freaks. A touch of Mother Nature never made nobody violent, never made nobody hate, nobody will break nobody's peace. It's never been shown to be harmful. Don't you tell me no lies with your caffeine, codeine, nicotine eyes. The cannabis ban is just recent, just since 1938 to re-legalize it, realize it. You made a big mistake. Hey, Uncle Sam.